Have you ever wondered what would happen if Tarzan was in Waterworld? Well, I've got a comic for you. It's the Once and Future Tarzan drawn by Thomas Yeats. And so, in my retro reviews, I've been exploring Malibu Comics, Tarzan, the comics they put out with Samick International. And I've been exploring kind of the legacy of that version of Tarzan with comics by those creators that explore Tarzan as immortal, who, could be in the future. And this brings us to Thomas Yeats's The Once and Future Tarzan. So the interesting thing is that this is not just a one-shot by Dark Horse Comics. It's also collected in trade paperback. So let me explain what the story is. So it was actually originally published in Dark Horse Presents. This is back when Dark Horse Presents was this big, thick anthology that cost like $8 an issue, $8 an issue. There's a lot of good stuff in here, and one of those stories is a serialized version of The Once and Future Tarzan. It ran for 3 chapters with Thomas Yeats doing the artwork, and then that got discontinued, and it came back in another volume of Dark Horse Presents with a new artist, Bo Hampton, doing the artwork. And so the one shot collects the 3 chapters with Thomas Yeats's art, and the trade paperback collects all the stuff that was published in Dark Horse Presents by both Thomas Yeats and Bo Hampton, including several chapters at the end to wrap everything up that were not published anyplace else but this trade paperback. This is a 2012 one-shot from Dark Horse. Yes, it has been 10 years. And I'll get around to why that's kind of sad in a minute. But let's take a look at this cover. Thomas Yeats is the master of Tarzan. I love Thomas Yeats' Tarzan. So yes, I love this cover to death. It definitely, grabs your attention. It definitely looks like Tarzan, but we can definitely see some things that make it look unusual. Like, that this isn't a normal Tarzan story. He's wading through water in the middle of a city. There's a lion in this ruined building. He's got this machine gun, and, we can see the fallen buildings and stuff. It just looks really cool. It's a very inviting cover that will really intrigue the reader. And the great thing is they actually give us a back cover too with another gorgeous color image by Thomas Yeats, and it looks beautiful. I mean, this is just, pure Tarzan of the future. I mean, this is just such cool looking stuff. And the interior is every bit as gorgeous as that cover, maybe even more so. It's just terrific, terrific stuff. And so the story is by Alan Gordon. This is based on a concept by Thomas Yeats, but Alan Gordon, who I think is mostly an inker, actually writes this. And it's set in this kind of post-apocalyptic future where, the polar ice caps have melted and London is underwater. And obviously this is very well-worn territory, but they spice it up in this one shot, the first 3 chapters. Tarzan keeps sanctuaries with animals in it, so we get to see some jungle in there. We get some wonderfully drawn kinetic fight scenes with humans. And they throw in some freaky mutants in there just to spice things up. And crocodiles. You can't go wrong with crocodiles. But I gotta say, the first issue is really enjoyable with the Yeats art and the action. And just as a quick side note, there is a warrior woman in here named Victory. She is kind of a minor character. It's a big ensemble cast. But that's a reference to the Burroughs novel, The Lost Continent, also known as Beyond 30. And that's a post-apocalyptic world that Burroughs wrote. Basically, Europe had fallen into savagery after World War I got out of control. But basically, the name of the character is basically the only connection between this and Beyond 30. I think it's just basically a tribute. So once you get to chapter 4 in the trade paperback, Bo Hampton takes over the art, and he draws most of the trade. And I would say, his artwork is not the artistic tour de force that Yeats's is, but it is still a storytelling tour de force. It will get a little sketchy at the end, but for the most part, he really does do great storytelling. And there are a few cool moments like Tarzan versus this tiger. Unfortunately, the story mostly didn't connect with me, especially after I get through that first few chapters with the Yeats's art. Um, it's a story where Tarzan and Jane meet a lot of new characters and they go to Africa to find the thing that made Tarzan and Jane immortal. It's a lot of nautical adventure. Everything's underwater, and they spend a lot of time on a submarine and talking about how the submarine works, and there's a storm, and it just doesn't really feel like Tarzan, and I didn't find it all that exciting. There were just too many characters, and none of them connected with me. But for the most part, it's not bad. I mean, I didn't feel like I was having my intelligence insulted, but though it does get a little messy at the end. But for the most part, I just found it honestly boring, and I kind of hated that. I wanted to really like this comic. I really did, because there's a lot of good effort and a lot of good intention here. It just didn't connect with me, and you may have a different reaction. I mean, there's quotes on this gorgeous back cover by Thomas Yeats, from guys like Kurt Busiek, and Eric Larson and guys like that. And I would like to think that they really did enjoy this thing. They're not just saying this because they like Mike Richardson or something. So, I mean, I guess different people have different reactions to it. It just didn't connect with me. And this is kind of a minor complaint, but this is kind of mystifying to me since this is a modern day trade paperback. This cover is by Thomas Yeats. We get gorgeous back cover by Thomas Yeats, but there is no cover gallery in here. So, images like, this on the one shot, and the back cover on the one shot, not in here, which is completely mystifying to me. So I really have kind of a split decision on this one. I recommend the one shot. To be blunt with you, I love Thomas Yeats on Tarzan, and Thomas Yeats could draw Tarzan reading a newspaper for 20 pages and I would buy it. He's just that good with the character. But the trade, I kind of have a hard time personally recommending. Like I said, it just didn't really connect with me personally. But, you may have different mileage with it. If Tarzan wandered around in a world that's underwater sounds interesting to you, maybe this is up your alley. And so the sad thing about this one shot is that this was published in 2012. And so this one shot is the final Tarzan comic that is solely devoted to the character of Tarzan. He is the main character, Tarzan. See it on the cover. And that's officially licensed. Or I should say the last Tarzan issue for now. Because as the cover says, he is the once and future Tarzan. And I think it's inevitable that at some point in some way he will return to monthly comics. He's doing a team up with Groove for some reason. But Thomas Yeats is doing some artwork in there, so maybe I'll pick that up anyway. That's kind of crazy. But maybe there will be some actual Tarzan comics coming out of that devoted to the character. Maybe a mini series or something. I don't know. I hope so. I think, whether it's, the immortal Tarzan we saw in the Malibu comics that's set in modern day, or, the more traditional, early 20th century we saw in the Tarzan in the Dark Horse comics, or anything in between. I mean, there's just so much story to still be told with this character, and so much potential, and so many people you can reach with, Tarzan comics. So here's hoping. And so that's all my thoughts on the once and future Tarzan. This is the ending of my reviews of Malibu Comics Tarzan. I explored, the comics they put out, and then kind of the legacy of that immortal Tarzan that was set in modern day times or future times that came afterwards. So you can check out those reviews. I've also got reviews of other Burroughs comics by American Mythology that are quite good. So like and subscribe for more videos. And until next time, see ya.